So here's a classic Los Angeles site, right? We've got fruit trees just blooming all over the place. And it got me thinking about my research on Old Norse color a little bit, because there's this kind of a meme, I would say almost, that's gone around for a really long time. This notion that Old Norse doesn't have a word for blue, which, as I've explained in various videos, publications, and such over the years, I think is largely influenced by the fact that they call ravens blue in poetry. Ravens are black in prose. And that's just a good observation about birds like ravens, crows, and magpies that have this sheen to their feathers that's very blue or violet-like. But a surprising result of my research has been the notion that Old Norse really doesn't have a word for yellow. And it's not, as I've often been at pains to point out in talking about this color semantic stuff, that they don't perceive yellow. They can see a difference between yellow and red, but they don't consider it important enough, perhaps, to label with a complete basic other word. In the same way that English doesn't have a different word for blue, whether that's a very light sky blue or a very dark navy blue. We call those both blue, and if we have to describe the difference, we can say, like a sky blue, navy blue, whatever. So in the same way, red, rauður, the basic implication of that, the thing that that immediately calls to mind, is like a blood red, right? But it can actually cover colors like yellow. But there's a term, bleikr, that in Old Norse means something that's a warm color, but it's not red. So don't think blood. And of course, the two most likely things for that to cover are both on this tree. So we have yellow, like the lemon fruit itself, and then we've got these little blossoms and buds. I don't know how much of this you can see without me turning the camera around and screwing this up. But that's also bleikr. So that pink and yellow are covered by the same category. Now conceptually, it's really different from what most modern languages that we know are going to do, but it makes sense in its own way. And I think that's a more interesting conclusion than trying to cram the color system of Old Norse into any theoretical framework that's streamed up to try to explain, like a particular sequence of development of color terms, which was fashionable in the 70s, 80s in linguistics maybe. By the way, in modern Icelandic, you can still kind of see the results of this dichotomy, because bleikr basically means pink, but means yellow-ish when used of a horse.